Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes Reacts. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Daz.
Collectively, we are the Office Blokes.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
What we've got going on at the moment, Office Bloke Mike?
We have a Patreon channel. Go to patreon.com, put in Office Blokes React. For just £1.50, you can get block content, early access, all stuff like that. And pretty soon, we have got exclusive podcasts coming up there, haven't we?
Exclusive.
Weekly, just for Patreon only.
Just for our patrons.
That's going to be great. So yeah, go down there, check it out.
Yeah, good stuff. How much does that start at again?
£1.50.
£1.50. What's that in dollars?
US dollars.
About two, bit less.
Bit less, probably.
Yeah, 185 maybe, 180.
It's $2 that the tier's set out there.
Is it? Yeah.
Right, it is.
Yeah, it's not a $1.89 tier.
$2. I did say that first.
Anyway, right, why America is terribly designed. I'm intrigued with this one because I always thought that because it's not as old, they've had the benefit of when they're expanding. We talked about it with the New York thing the other day system. That you can have the sort of grid system. Things are a bit more modular and it makes sense.
Seems to be easy to find things as well. If you're on, First Street and 50th Street is like 50 streets up that way, something like that. I don't know.
50 blocks.
I don't know if it works. Yeah, I don't know if it works like that. I'm assuming it is.
Yeah,
something like that seems a logical way to do it, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But,
whereas we've got one road that goes like that was built 500 years ago, that's got a Roman road going through the middle that's been there for 2,000 years.
Just like
cars double parked on either side and let one car through.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a mess, some of it, isn't it?
I feel like if you designed not geographically, but if you designed architecturally a city or a town nowadays, it'd be more like
they did it in Milton Keynes.
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
Milton Keynes is the newest town I can think of.
I think that was like a
and
Warrington. System,
Warrington was the same grid system.
It's all boulevards and stuff in
it's roundabouts.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like a grid system.
Roundabouts,
Warrington's the same if you go, especially Birchwood area when it was new.
Yeah,
that's all the same grid system.
But you still see a lot of new housing estates these days. A lot of them still do have curvy roads and stuff, don't they? They don't tend to make them straight still.
Stop with the it's help with the drainage.
Is it really? I never knew that.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be why this is terribly designed, then maybe this sort of modular way isn't the way.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's find out then why America is terribly designed. Let's do it.
This is a map of Philadelphia's parking lot density over a small area. The pink patches represent parking lots, and as you can see, they're all quite large and quite close to each other. Now, Philadelphia has a population of 1.6 million people, but they have 2.2 million parking spaces. So Philadelphia has more car slots than it does human beings, which should sound absolutely ridiculous to anyone. But if you've never experienced anything else, you might not understand the depth of this problem. So let's compare Philadelphia to a European city, Amsterdam for example.
Just not taking into consideration visitors.
Yeah, tourists. But I'm also thinking, would you rather have just the right amount and then people can't park? Because
you've got to have more than what the population is anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you've got visitors coming in. People probably don't live in Philadelphia but work in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That's a great design feature. Imagine never worrying about getting a parking space again.
Yeah.
You can always park wherever you go.
Better than too many than not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day of the week.
A city that's roughly the same size in population, but with a completely different view on urban planning. Now sure, they do have parking lots, but instead of having an excess of one per person, they instead have one for every 3 people. Although, that's not the entire story, because 40% of these parking spaces are actually underground, making room above ground for what is significantly more important: sidewalks and bike lanes. And to understand why they are so important, you only need to use some common sense. See, if you have a car-based city, or country for that matter, with no bike lanes or sidewalks, you are actively excluding those who can't afford to pay thousands of dollars a year on a car from society, since they can't go to and from work or even to the grocery store in a safe, efficient way. And if you add to that terrible public transportation, it will lead to charts like this, where you can clearly see the most popular mode of transport in America that just so happens to be the car, which isn't too surprising, since America is designed for cars, not humans. And while there are some sidewalks and bike lanes in the United States' largest cities, they are either unprotected and really scary to use, or just end abruptly, with no other option but to use the street itself to walk or bike on. Which is really not ideal if you want to send your kids to school on their own, or to get some milk in the store. I mean, I biked everywhere when I was a kid, and it seems like if you're under 16 in the US, and therefore don't have your driver's license yet, you're practically under house arrest until your parents come home. which doesn't sound that fun to me. And I remember clearly when I visited the United States with my parents a few years back that whenever we tried to walk anywhere, it felt like we were intruding on the car's territory, since we literally had to walk through various parking lots and streets with no sidewalks in sight to get to our destination just a few hundred meters away. And it doesn't have to be this way. See, the streets of Amsterdam, for example, are filled with pedestrians because they have sidewalks that aren't at all scary to use, because you feel separated from the road, and that's because you are separated from the road. The most beautiful thing about Amsterdam, though, is that it's incredibly bike-friendly, as it's filled with designated bike lanes that don't end abruptly, and are instead carefully laid out all over the city to make it easy for people to commute anywhere. Amsterdam even has no car zones and even underground bike parking spaces that look pretty insane. Something you'd never find in the US. But if you think it's unfair to compare the...
Yeah, fucking try cycling up a mountain like that they don't have in Holland.
Yeah, that's
Eh?
true. Yeah.
That's true, yeah. It's one of the
You know what I mean?
flattest
It's
countries
flat,
in
it's
the
dead
world,
flat.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why there's loads of cyclists.
I think Amsterdam has been there a lot longer and doesn't
gonna
have the
say
benefit
that's-
of being able to design massive roads for cars. Maybe it'd be different if it was built
Yeah, and having
nowadays.
empty spaces for car parks as well,
Yeah.
because I thought the buildings have been there for like centuries, probably, haven't they?
Yeah, but it's
So
as flat as a
for long time.
pancake though. You're
Yeah.
cycling straight wherever you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So you might have a little tiny like gradient up and down, but nothing
But
like
not a
you'll
lot.
get in the USA with mountains and hills.
Yeah,
but
I mean-
I think the bikes are more a symptom of the lack of space than anything else. So it's like we can't accommodate all these cars and stuff, so people went to bikes. Makes more sense.
United States to literally the best city for bikes in the world, then just remember it's practically the same story in all of Europe's largest cities like Copenhagen or Paris. Now sure, they aren't at the same level as Amsterdam, but whenever I bike around Copenhagen, I don't feel like a car is going to hit me, because we have our own designated
So I'm
lanes that are sometimes as wide as the road itself.
Fucking swerve
And you
for
might think, well, the United States will never be able to get to that level, so why even compare them? But the thing is, and this might surprise you, not too long ago, the United States' largest cities were actually designed exactly like these European cities. Take for example Houston, that currently looks like this, with tons of space allocated to these massive parking lots. Seems like it's always been this way, but that's not the case, because in 1920, Houston looked like this, with a lot more space for pedestrians. They could actually walk around the city without fearing for their lives or feeling like they were intruding on the car's territory. This means the United States didn't design their cities to be this way, they bulldozed them to be. And while European metropolitan areas are increasingly
That's interesting, that actually, because I thought it was designed that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but in 1920, how many cars were on the road compared to today?
Yeah, barely
exactly,
any.
not
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah,
But that's the point he's making, isn't it? They designed it at a time where there wasn't cars everywhere, and they kind of transformed it. I
when
think
there was cars, but
You
then
have to move with the times, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
people started moving out the cities, didn't they? But then when they moved out the cities and needs to commute back in, when there's no public transport, they need the cars, don't they? So it's
I love driving and I love cars, but I do think we need more everywhere. There needs to be safe spaces for cyclists, preferably.
Bullshit.
Preferably,
Get
yeah,
them go to the park.
yeah.
just keep them away from him.
Off the road though,
Yeah.
so we can separate cars and cyclists. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be on the same road together. Have cycle paths, underground cycle paths. That's what we should do.
Yeah. Charge them all to have a bike. So when you
Yeah.
buy a bike, you pay an annual tax.
You should have a
And then you
license.
can put a license and a registration plate on it, and then
Yep.
you can start building your roads.
Yeah, I'm with you on
with
that.
the money we save on it. Yeah,
I think we're on
Sewers.
something there.
about 6 foot under.
Yeah, sewers.
So make the lanes about 8 foot by 2 foot.
To be fair, they could just float.
Fucking fill it in once they're down there.
It's a go with this plan of consent. It really is.
No,
Vote for Daz.
I think about it with the kids though, and obviously they're at that age where they're learning to ride bikes and stuff, and I can't see a time where I'm ever going to be comfortable with them on the roads near me on a push bike.
No.
See, when I was growing, I mean, we were always on bikes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so was I, yeah.
Always on bikes. There wasn't that many cars
Yeah.
about really, but that's all we did. We were on bikes everywhere. Go with school
No
on
helmet.
Bikes. No helmets or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
But,
No brakes.
But no brakes. But yeah, it's a bit different these days, isn't it? People are a bit more wary. Roads are busier. It's just the way it's going, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love the idea of there being actual places where they can ride the bikes.
that'd be
though.
great if they can. Yeah, of course.
Just not on the roads.
We're a
Yeah,
bit
just not on the roads. That's my point.
We're a bit
Yeah.
half-hearted doing it over here, aren't we? We put the odd cycle lane in next to a dead
They've
busy road.
put one in.
and
They
it's
put one in.
like,
They put one in. They took the
really?
dual carriageway out and put a cycle lane in, so it's like one lane now on the main road here, all the way
That's
to
right,
all the way
correct.
to Manchester. And there's
Which
I
road?
never see it going to Manchester from here, going down
near-
Washway Road,
Up near Stretford and
Stretford
stuff
Way.
like that.
Oh really?
But yeah, they blocked the whole lane off But I've never seen anyone using it.
Coned it off.
Coned it,
As
so it's
like
just
a
cones.
cycle
Is that
lane.
why it's
like
coned off?
Yeah,
Is that why they've done that?
Yeah, cycle lane.
Ah, right.
They did it during COVID to encourage people to go on bikes,
Yeah.
but there's never one.
I've never seen anyone use it.
It's just pointless.
All the way to
No one knows
Sowerston.
it's there. I
Yeah, they
didn't
do.
know what. I thought it was.
You know.
I thought it was roadworks.
No.
So if I was on a bike, I'd be looking for a hole that I'm going to fall into.
No, it's a cycle lane.
Yeah, we do half-arse it over here with
Yeah.
stuff
Oh,
like
absolutely.
that. Though. You're right.
Yeah,
big
Everything.
time.
Rolling back on the car's dominance with high-speed trains, metros, and non-automotive methods of transit. The United States is increasing their dependence on cars by expanding highways and demolishing houses, apartment complexes, businesses, and schools to fit them. Which doesn't really make any sense. I mean, if a city is expanding their number of highway lanes from 16 to 20, there's a problem. So I've been trying to figure out why they've done this to themselves and what actually happened. And what I found was surprising to say the least. Here, take a look at this. In cities like Charlotte or Portland, Oregon, there's parking lot minimums that are placed in high schools, which is actually a practice adopted by many states and cities. And this means that a high school containing hallways, a cafeteria, an auditorium, offices, restrooms, gyms, and everything in between can be around 5,100 square feet in size, just for the buildings alone. But because of these parking lot minimums, a school of this size must also have a parking lot that's half the size of the entire school. That means 2,005 square feet of space has to be allocated to parking lots and driving aisles alone, which is absolutely insane, as this simply isn't an option in some areas. But since it's preset in many school budgets, it just leads to cramped learning spaces and an emphasis on buying cars to get to and from school. It's essentially a silent message sent to students, teachers, and parents. Buy cars or else. I mean, this would never work in Copenhagen. Not only don't we have space for that, but there's no need. We don't drive our kids to school here. We just give them their backpack and then they either walk or bike to school from the age of 6. Alone, I might add. That's normal here. But going back to the parking lots, it's simply the result of city planners mandating nearly 3 to 8 parking spaces in city areas per car. A practice that started in the 1930s.
I was just going to say, Seymour park next to each other, all them spaces. We're all parked next to each other.
That's what you do. You don't park in the empty space on the other side of the car.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
I do.
I suppose
I don't want
not.
anyone near me.
My car's a piece of shit, isn't it? So I don't have to worry about that.
I don't want anyone near me.
Same here.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
I think this is a little bit one-sided, and obviously you having lived in the States in a couple of different places, don't people travel further to get to high school
Yeah.
than they do over here, for
Yeah.
example?
Yeah. Well, they have school buses as well.
Well, when I was in high school, I think everyone lived within about a 3 or 4 mile.
Yeah, but you zoned out if you school.
They're not anymore, actually.
Oh, they're
But
not?
yeah, they've got rid of that now. But still, you're not far enough away for kids, 16-year-olds, to need to be able to drive to get to school.
Mm.
Even if
not
you
really.
walk, like I
Yeah.
used to walk to school a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Just a
public
couple of
transport
miles.
is quite good.
It's all yeah, it's definitely good nowadays.
Mm.
But I think if you got, I presume somewhere as vast as the States, people are driving 10 miles to get to school, or people are travelling further. Is
Yeah.
my point. So
Yeah.
they,
Oh,
so they
definitely,
need
I
a
think
car.
so,
Yeah, and you send these 6-year-olds to school over here on their own. Fucking some nonce will have them, and you
Yeah.
won't see them again.
No one
Know
would
what I
do
mean?
that, would they? No one ever does
No.
it to primary school, did he?
Well, my son's 6 tomorrow, and the thought of him going anywhere on his own, it's just like, you fucking kidding me? No chance.
No.
Chance not that age.
Yeah, that's irresponsible parenting, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly.
Bloody Denmark people,
Danish.
smoky bacons.
as cars became more affordable for the average American family. But cars were also decreasing in price in Europe at this time, yet they didn't bulldoze their cities to make room for them. So something strange is happening here, and experts are asking for an end to the massive parking lot requirements because of the valuable space they eat and the uglification of the urban landscape. And I tend to agree that this isn't particularly beautiful. So what about the solutions? What about, instead of remodeling entire cities, the United States just implemented better public transport? I mean, in Copenhagen I live right next to both a train station, metro station and bus stop, and therefore I can literally go anywhere in Copenhagen without the need of a car or bike for that matter. So would that be a good idea? Well, currently only 5% of Americans use public transportation, and there's actually a very simple reason for that. It's terrible. This is a map of Chicago's train system. If you look at its design, it's not very hard to figure out what it was built to do. All its different lines intersect here, in Chicago's downtown, and then fan outward. This is a system that's really good at moving people between the suburbs or the outer rings of the city and then downtown, meaning there's a complete lack of routes going from suburb to suburb, making it useless to a lot of people who need those connections for public transport to make sense. Transit systems across the US were built to serve a very specific type of commute, from outside the center of the city to inside it. But studies show that today, the most common American commute is actually from suburb to suburb, routes that public transit in the US usually doesn't serve. And the train routes that do exist aren't exactly desirable.
Okay, just hub into the city, change trains, go back out to the other suburb you're going to.
That's the way to do it normally, isn't it, you'd think? Yeah.
He's got everything on his doorstep in Copenhagen, right?
Yeah.
Keep your nose out of fucking America then. None of your business, mate.
It's alright if you just live next to it all, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about everyone else?
I sort of went into this thinking that the more modern designed American cities were probably designed better, and obviously Copenhagen's been there for that long that they've not got the benefit necessarily of being able to make the changes. But I'm sort of disagreeing with some of his points here a little bit.
Yeah.
Same. Like you say, hub, you know, that's what you do. You head into the city because you can't then have a tram system that goes
to every
this suburb
street
to that suburb to that suburb. That's what bus services.
Just get an
are
Uber,
for.
mate.
Well,
Right?
the problem is when things are moving forward and getting more affluent, people aspire to having a car as well, don't they? That's what's happened over the years from the early 19th century. People have went around on bikes probably, didn't they? You look at places like China, I think there's a lot of bikes over there, isn't there? But I think they're getting more and more cars as well, aren't they? As the country gets richer as well. It's just the way things go, isn't it?
Lock up your nice bike in a city centre over here.
Oh,
Nice.
See what happens. It's gone. It's gone.
You put your bike. You nip in the shop for a minute.
Yeah.
When you come back out, that bike's gone.
Yeah. Or someone's kicked the wheels in and
I've just seen
buckled
the
them.
last few days, a couple of them, the wheels buckled, smashed in.
Yeah.
Locked up, but...
Well, they even did that scooter system over here, didn't they? Or the bike system where, your mobike, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And they got damaged in the first 4 days of it.
Thrown in canals and
they
stuff.
binned it off,
Yeah, I saw them lying around everywhere. And
Works in every other city, just not here.
I know, yeah. It's bizarre.
I know.
It really is.
I think it's time to talk about Amtrak. Amtrak has become somewhat of a plague on the American railway system, with constant train derailment, increased taxpayer funding, expensive tickets, and lack of connectivity. This means most Americans aren't too keen on using trains to get around, even if they technically serve a route they could use. Stations are also far from each other, and major train riding cities like Boston, Washington, and New Jersey haven't gotten an upgrade in years. The system pales in comparison to Switzerland's sophisticated railways that more than 450 million passengers use each year, which by the way is around 13 times as many passengers as Amtrak has per year. And let's not forget, Switzerland only has 8.5 million inhabitants compared to the United States' 330 million, making these numbers absolutely insane. But even with Congress's recent plans to hand $30 billion over to Amtrak for a high-speed train, Amtrak has no plans to use that.
Not going to cost you 30 billion. High speed rail, is it?
That's what they think.
I know. What's HS2 over here up to? It's like over 100 billion, isn't it?
I'm not sure, but
78 billion last night.
78, and
and
they've binned off the bit that they sold it on that was the north connection.
the connection line.
it's only what, it's just going to go that way, isn't it? It's just going to go up, isn't it?
The line's not going to go up. The line's going to go further south. Right? You don't get fuck all over the north.
It's going to connect the south to another bit of the south.
It's
It's
just
just
going
going
to go around the M25 loads of times, just really fast.
So, do they have sort of citywide tram systems in the States?
Some do. I think San Francisco does. I can't remember if Boston does.
I suppose San Francisco's got the really
Yeah, of
famous
course
ones on the
it has.
roads. Yeah.
Trolleys.
Yeah, because I think the tram system in Manchester is absolutely amazing.
It's
nowadays.
brilliant.
It's
great. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Clean, safe.
Expanded it all the time out.
Yeah.
It's gone
Yeah.
up to Trafford Centre Media City now as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good, actually.
I only used to get the one line, which was the original line, say to Altrincham, Manchester.
Yeah.
But then the other day I got Withington to Trafford Bar to go to the football.
Yeah.
And then back, and it's
It
amazing.
is good. It is really good.
Yeah.
Just absolutely,
Fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got it back from the football from Old Trafford when City
Yeah,
played
that's
United,
right,
and
yeah,
I jumped out and it was straight up on the tram. I was in Altrincham in like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
That's
No.
good. Yeah. They're frequent. It's
like
good.
every 7 minutes,
System.
aren't they?
About 6 minutes at the peak times, I think. Yeah,
I think that's the way for inner cities. It's just something like that.
But you have to hub through there. You have to. You can't go from Didsbury to the airport.
No,
you have to hub somewhere.
Yeah. So, absolutely.
Well, because you can't have one going absolutely
everywhere. No, and that's what he's going on about.
I mean, you talk about built-up cities already, but they've managed to do it in Manchester, haven't they?
Yeah.
You've got to find a route through. You can't literally do it everywhere, can you?
No.
But another thing that's worth noting, though, is in Denmark, it's the most heavily taxed country on earth.
Really?
Yeah. But apparently the happiest country on earth as well.
Right, okay.
I thought Finland was the happiest.
I think it's Denmark.
Oh, okay.
I saw a TV advert where they were advertising something. They said
England.
that, so. We're miserable bastards.
I'm happy. I'm a happy guy.
I'm happy, but as a nation, we're miserable bastards.
Finland were the happiest, but then they found out that Copenhagen were. Now they're all upset.
Mad about it.
Sad and mad.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but I mean, it's complete different cultures, isn't it? So
one
fits one fits the other.
Different types of cities, differently built.
It's like the Amsterdam model wouldn't work in Manchester. There's just no way.
No.
Because again, you try having 100,000 bikes, just all going to get destroyed, thrown in the canals.
It causes more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah.
For such a system. Instead, they're pouring all of that cash into restoring 18 tracks from New York to New York City, repairing an already existing tunnel and expanding Penn Station. Basically meaning, they are going to invest their government funds in what is proven to be profitable and neglect everything else. So maybe the train idea was too far-fetched, but buses should work. The only problem is that someone needs to pay for them, and currently only a quarter of public transit is paid for by ticket sales, meaning 75% is subsidized by the local, state and federal government, which is truly not ideal. But it simply doesn't make sense to just spend that money on expanding highways instead, as that will only worsen the problem. A fix needs to happen, and the best place to start might be the parking lots. We know the United States has way too many parking lots, so demolishing the unnecessary ones and condensing the cities would allow for more residential and commercial areas to be within walking distance of one another. It would also allow for green spaces that can be used as recreational spots, further improving the quality of life in each city. But obviously that would require the US to remove mandatory parking minimums from state laws, and that would be pretty difficult. But the benefits would be huge, as it would lead to the reduction of housing costs, something that's also a pressing problem in the United States these days. And sure, major cities like Seattle, Austin and Detroit will never be as condensed as Copenhagen or Zurich. But the vast spaces can be used in a sort of hybrid mashup of interstate connectivity and pedestrian alternatives. The US could also take a page out of Paris's book, as they've been doing radical infrastructure changes over the past 3 decades to accommodate other modes of transport. Paris even has car-free days, where residents are encouraged to explore their city through alternative means. And they have committed to reducing the number of on-street parking spaces by 72% before 2024. But realistically,
that's a lot.
What's that going to achieve other than no one can park?
Just push the parking somewhere else.
Bigger car parks.
Some shiny big car parks that cost a fortune or something. I mean, one of the points he brought up, which was good, was
green spaces.
More residential living as well.
Yeah.
Like in Manchester, we know what it's like there. There's absolutely so many flats and apartments going up. There's that many people living in town now. It's brilliant, I think. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
The expansion, but people don't need cars and stuff like that as much anyway, do they? If they're actually living in the city.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is what a lot of it's about.
I know quite a few people now who don't have a car.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if all your work and everything's local or public transport's in place, I mean, you don't need it really, do you?
No.
Next year, when the green air zone comes into place in Manchester, which they're doing in cities all around the country,
it's in Birmingham already.
Yeah, I think you'll see more of a drop off for people. I mean, it's the whole of Greater Manchester.
Yeah, but it's only commercial.
I know it's commercial, but it's a slippery slope, isn't it?
I'll pay it. If I have to pay it, I'll pay it.
£10 a day for a commercial van.
Yeah.
Just to drive anywhere.
It's a lot of money, isn't it? A few thousand a year.
It's madness. Start driving a van as your daily commute and loading it up.
Will the United States ever be able to implement anything like this? And will they ever be able to solve their infrastructure problems? A solution is needed, but what do you think that will end up being?
Interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
It's food for thought. I kind of disagree on a couple of the points, but
the only other thing I was thinking of about bikes is, I mean, trying to ride on a bike over here the last couple of days, you're going to absolutely piss wet through, aren't you?
Well, the weather, you get blown over.
We've got the weather for it over
flooded,
here,
man.
haven't we? Oh, it's been bad, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So
I like the cyclists when there's floods.
Yeah,
Fucking proper spray.
I can imagine you going past.
I
Yeah.
proper trying. I've got to wait until a big puddle, and then I go.
Just park up somewhere waiting for someone to go past it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
I think one thing that's worth saying is, though, that because the cities are built in a certain way, the American ones that you showed examples of there, it wouldn't take much to take one lane of like a 5-lane highway and just wall it off, and then it becomes a pedestrian and cycle path. Because they built it so big anyway. Like our roads, we've not got the benefit. We have to dig up a pavement to put a cycle path in and stuff.
I get what you mean, but I mean, yeah, more than like a cycle path, because some of them, you saw the suburbs are so far out the city, I mean, it'd probably take you like 2 hours to walk in, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Even if you had like a footpath going in there.
But if there's more residential in the city, then it's just you're dotting about from a bit of the city to a bit of the city.
Can your average guy afford a house in any city?
No.
Can't.
No.
You've got to live in the suburbs.
That's true.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the best solutions is decent public transport, isn't it? When all said and done.
Yeah.
It's got to be, but it's, not that easy, is it? You've got to have people and governments and local governments investing in it, and it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's whether you want them or not.
It's definitely a bit of a culture clash there, though. Of like
you can't compare.
It's like a quite bohemian European city versus like Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like,
completely different, aren't they?
yeah.
I mean, these benefits to both sides of different things, what different cultures have like, but that's not. He needs to keep his nose out.
Stick to making bacon.
Exactly. I'm drinking you Carlsberg.
Anyway. Carlsberg is Danish, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's my driving beer.
Oh dear.
Hope you guys enjoyed that too. Don't forget, like and subscribe, hit the bell. Catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.